Interior, Samantha's bedroom, night. A baby, Samantha, sleeps in a crib in the average child's bedroom. Stuffed animals line a dresser. A mobile dangles. In the crib there is a small contraption, white plastic with two large glowing buttons. The square button glows red, the triangle blue. Samantha wakes, looks around, cries. In the ceiling corner, a small surveillance camera is aimed at the crib. Interior observatory, moments later. Dale, the night watchman, sits in front of a dozen televisions, each trained on a sleeping child, all different ages. The sound of Samantha's crying is muted. Dale watches her screen, his feet on the desk. He picks up the phone and dials.
Dr. Pritchard, you might want to come in here. Samantha, she's crying good.
He hangs up, turns back to the monitor.
Come on, Sam. Show us what you're made of, girl.
Good evening, Dale.
Evening, Doctor. Want me to go in and feed her?
No, let's give her a minute, see what she does.
Samantha's room. Samantha wails a moment more, then quiets. She ponders the two buttons in her crib. She shuffles towards them. Thinks. Reaches and touches the blue button. The mobile overhead springs to life. Music plays. The lights of the bedroom come on and Dr. Pritchard bursts in.
That a girl, Sam?
Dr. Pritchard picks her up from the crib and holds her.
You're getting the hang of it. Guess you're hungry, huh? You want to eat? Well, let's get you something to eat.
Interior, Southerland School Infirmary, night. Jennifer, late 20s, sits by the light of a huge window in a rocking chair. She is surrounded by half a dozen cribs, each containing a baby. Jennifer reads aloud to them the babies cooing in their cribs. While the practical appointments of this nursery are similar to those seen in other nurseries, its atmosphere is quite different. Rather than pastel blues, yellows, pinks, these walls are rich and dark. And rather than Winnie the Pooh pictures, these nursery walls are adorned with Michelangelo, Picasso, etc. Jennifer turns the page, shifts the book she's reading to the babies. Its title is revealed, Jean-Paul Sartre's Being and Nothingness. Interior, Southerland School classroom, day. An advanced calculus question is written on the whiteboard, a professor adding characters. Pulling back, the class is revealed, a group of 8 students no more than 12 years of age. Interior, auditorium, night. 2 podiums on stage of a packed venue. Between them, a huge board that reads, 2011 Massachusetts Debate Championship. Topic, the privatization of water in Asia. Behind the podium at right, a male student aged 18 stands under a sign that says Pro, Boston High. He watches the other podium nervously, uncomfortable. Behind the podium at left, a female student aged 9 stands under a sign that says Con, the Southerland School. She is so short she can barely be seen over the top of the podium. She speaks confidently, her words unheard, her motions controlled.
Interior, lecture hall, afternoon. A huge banquet hall in the lobby of a ritzy hotel. A sign at the entrance reads, 38th Annual Global Psychological Association Conference with keynote speaker Dr. Ed Southerland. The room's packed. Ed Southerland, 50s, paces the stage. He's passionate, energetic.
Same atmosphere, same home, same history, same abuse. Twin brothers, best friends, one becomes a happily married businessman, a model father. The other, a suicidal, homicidal, death row inmate. We're the divergents. Monozygotic twins with identical genetic substance. My discovery came casually, accidentally, 2 months into my case study. Brett mentioned during a session his brother's childhood insomnia. Further exploration revealed that their mother, a 24-year-old student pursuing her PhD in the evenings, was overwrought with the sleepless child. So, to lull Brett to sleep, she would read to him from her homework. 5 of the first 6 years of Brett Watkins' life were spent being nightly read the complex ideologies of Kierkegaard, Hegel, Aristotle, and Plato. Was this the moment of divergence? No child can decipher Finnegan's Wake nor understand the complexities of Nietzsche's Death of God? Certainly not. For if so, the methods of child rearing our race has practiced for the past 20 centuries, the entire history of our race would have been misguided. It is this very possibility the Southerland School has sought out to discover. And discover we have.
Interior. Conference lobby later. The lecture has ended, and people mill about the lobby of the auditorium, wine in hand. In a corner, Ed is surrounded by 5 doctors engaged in a heated argument.
How many intelligible words do you actually hear coming out of young parents' mouths the first year of their babies' lives?
But studies have proven that communication of that kind, verbal nonverbals, is essential to a child's ability to create vowel and consonant sounds.
Of course that's what studies show. Because no studies have ever been attempted to prove that other methods are more effective. And the goo and ga introduction to language can essentially stifle a mind's potential. Now, our ultimate goal isn't to undo the way people parent, but to simply emphasize rational responses, to downplay emotional outbursts by not rewarding them with any type of productive response.
And you're doing that by taking children away from their homes.
Let's be honest with ourselves. People fight. Mom and dad fight. We fight with siblings. But the question that's most important is how we fight and why we fight in the way we do. When a child sees her mother screaming at her father, she's learned that such outbursts are normal, acceptable, human, as pop culture claims.
But they are human.
Are they? Perhaps not humanity at its greatest potential. Perhaps these emotions are simply bad habits, habits that can be broken.
Exterior, Boston Street day. Rebecca and Gerald walk through a residential neighborhood. Both carry bags of groceries. Rebecca looks pissed and Gerald's annoyed.
I just don't see how you think it's fair that I should sit at home all day by myself every Sunday after I've done it 5 days of the week already.
You don't have to sit home, Rebecca. Why don't you call your daughter?
How about she call me for a change?
If you wanted to spend time with her, as bad as you claim you do...
If I wanted to spend time with her, just leave the groceries and go to your stupid seminar.
Interior, Ed's office day. Ed's office is humble. The usual degrees hung around, a large bookshelf lined with books. Ed sits behind the desk, his hands crossed, watching. Across from him, Vanessa, early 20s, quickly signs a document on Ed's desk. David, a bit older, sits beside her wearing dirty coveralls, his fingers stained with grease. He rocks a stroller back and forth. In the stroller, their baby, a boy of 10 weeks. He's cute, grapples with the colorful toy. David looks affectionately at him.
That's it?
Yes. Do you have any questions?
No.
And you, Mr. Mullins?
We see him how often?
Once in 6 months, then weekly for the duration of his stay here. 15 to 20 years, always on school grounds and supervised.
Why is that? Why supervised, I mean?
An emotional outburst by a parent can tear down a great deal of the conditioning we've taught, especially in the first 5 years. We monitor our teachers as well to shelter students as much as we can.
Exterior, parking lot, moments later. Vanessa stands at the driver's door of her car. The engine runs, she taps her fingers impatiently on the
David,
roof.
can we get out of here, please?
David and Ed nearby shake hands, and Vanessa gets in her car and slams the door.
It speaks a great deal of your character, David. You're a rare individual, a pioneer of progress.
It is for the best, right, Doctor? The best for Billy, I mean.
Most definitely.
David!
Tears well up in David's eyes. Ed puts his hand on David's shoulder, and Vanessa honks the horn.
My boy
In the best hands the world has to offer, the hands of reason.
Vanessa honks again.
Take comfort in this. I can guarantee you, when he leaves here a man, he'll never honk the horn at someone like that.
David goes to the car and gets in. Ed watches them pull away. Interior car evening. Gerald drives on the freeway. The radio plays jazz. He glances down at his briefcase in the passenger seat. He stretches, opens the flap. He reaches for something inside, just misses, and looks away from the road to find it. He looks back up, and a car is there. He slams on the brake and tires shriek. Interior, Tara Art Gallery evening. An upscale art gallery packed with expensive gowns and black ties. All art on the walls is by a single artist. A cell phone rings. Tasha Fitzpatrick, 23, reaches quickly into her purse and silences the phone without looking at it. She wears no makeup, a simple dress. She moves through the crowd, listening to conversations as she goes.
His use of color is magnificent. It just leaps off the canvas.
I love this piece. I've been standing here staring at it since I got here. I can't move.
I'm tired of this postmodern movement. I wish artists today would pay a little more attention to the real world.
Tasha stops before a huge, colorful painting and studies it. Tasha's point of view. The painting appears normal at first, then begins to swim and morph. Parts of the image, the lines, rise and isolate, gain emphasis, then fall back. The colors rise and the rest fades away. Then texture, then shadow.
Tasha! Tasha!
Gallery, Debbie, 40, but doesn't look a day over 30, is dressed to kill.
Up to your usual, I see.
Criticism is important, honey, but you have to speak to people to get the money to keep doing it.
She takes Tasha by the arm and leads her across the room.
Now, behave, and do try to act normal.
They approach an older couple, Robert and Judy Shaw.
Robert, Judy, you absolutely must meet Tasha Fitzpatrick. And I have to share her, though, with the Globe and the Times, but she's still our best writer.
Flattering, though. Debbie's notion of quality reeks of subjectivity.
Tasha's cell phone rings again.
Oh, stop it! Tasha, Robert, and Judy Shaw.
Tasha fumbles with her purse.
Excuse me.
She turns her phone off.
As in the Shaw Center of Modern Art?
Indeed, Miss Fitzpatrick, but not to worry. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Bradley exhibit either. Your review forced my husband to admit he was wrong. An event as surprising as it is rare.
A pleasure to meet you both. And not to worry, Mr. Shaw, because I hear you were the mastermind behind the Man vs. Nature exhibit last year. Fantastic.
Win some, lose some. You're younger than I expected. Your criticisms, sheer genius, the way you can take apart the image and turn it into words.
It doesn't take a genius to affix the label. The genius is in the making.
And modest, too. Isn't she just lovely?
Tell me, Tasha, where did you study?
Tasha studied at this eccentric experimental school right here in Boston. It made a genius of her.
Really? What school was that?
The Southerland School.
The Southerland School. I've never heard of it.
Oh, it's very small and very, very selective. Right, Tasha? Tasha was their first student and their only student for 10 or 15 years.
Will you excuse me? I should at least take a look at the art before I tear it into pieces in tomorrow's paper.
Oh, by then all means, go, go, go!
Sharp, isn't she?
Yes, and wonderfully strange.
Exterior, Tara Art Gallery moments later. Tasha exits the building and sits on a bench along the path. The door to the museum opens and Casey, 27, attractive, shaggy, steps out. He wears a tattered jacket, a wrinkled shirt, and a tie too long. He lights a cigarette and sees Tasha.
Mind if I join you?
No.
Seems like you got the best seat in the house away from all the pretense. I'm Casey.
Tasha.
You know, I think I've seen you before.
It's probably just a misplaced association.
No, I'm certain of it. I've seen you a lot of times. Lots of openings. Yeah, totally. You wore a purple dress to the Dan Goldman show a few weeks ago. You're one of the few who really looks a rare breed, unfortunately.
You go to a lot of openings?
As many as I can hear about, pretty much. So long as they don't charge to get in. You look smoking hot in that purple dress, by the way. This doesn't do you justice.
Are you a collector?
No, not of this stuff anyway. This stuff's for CEOs and bankers. I just like to see what people are painting.
What sort of things do you paint?
Did I say I paint?
No, but you have paint under your fingernails and your tone towards the topic speaks of familiarity.
Anything that comes to mind, really. I don't discriminate.
Are you good?
Yikes, you don't mess around, do you?
It's a simple question.
Well, you tell me.
Casey reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a bunch of cardboard pieces. They spill over onto the ground, and he fumbles to pick them up.
Where did you get that jacket?
I don't remember.
It looks like you pulled it out of Oliver Twist's closet.
It's been a while since I read that, but I think that was an insult.
I apologize. People have problems with my directness.
Fuck that. Direct is sexy. Would suit you better if you were wearing that other dress, not this dull thing.
Casey hands her a few pieces of the cardboard. Each piece has a small painting on it. Tasha holds them up, trying to see.
There isn't adequate light.
No worries, just look at them later. Then you can tell me if I'm good.
Very well.
Tasha puts them in her purse and stands.
If you'll excuse me, I must return to the social hodgepodge, display the vigor of my ineptitude.
Oh, hey, no problem. Nice bearing your frankness. Already looking forward to the next opening, the next dress.
Tasha glances back at him. She steps inside and smirks.
Interior, Tasha's home office, night. Tasha sits at a computer staring at the screen. She is still in her dress, but her hair is down, her shoes off.
An artist's ultimate aim is to isolate the elements of the world which he finds metaphysically essential and convey their presence to the world by means of a tangible product, his art. In this sense, Leroy Duncan must find something of metaphysical importance that escapes the majority of the world.
The cursor blinks. Tasha sits back and opens a book of templates of the items on display at the gallery. She thumbs through. Tasha's point of view. The picture swims under her eyes. She turns the page and deconstructs the next image. Back to scene. Tasha sets the book aside, returns to her keyboard, and finishes her thought.
Mud.
Interior, Casey's studio, late night. Plastic has been pulled over the carpet and taped at the base trim of a small bedroom, every inch of the walls covered in newspaper. Shelving units filled with drawers sloppily marked pastels, primaries, etc. line a wall. Paint is splattered floor to ceiling. Blank canvases, along with finished and in-progress paintings, lean in disorderly stacks along the walls. Casey stands in the middle of the room before a half-painted canvas, staring wildly at it. He has a finger in his mouth, unaware of the layers of paint on it. He steps in, makes a stroke, is dissatisfied, steps back, stares, then launches into a frenzy. Damn it! He throws his brush at the canvas, throws the canvas across the room. Paint flies over the walls, the floor, the picture itself. He runs around the room hysterical, overturning shelves and throwing a tantrum. He calms down, sinks to the floor. After a moment, he looks up at the splattered canvas. His look changes. He rises from the floor, approaches the canvas, smears some of the splashed paint, turns his head. His eyes light up, and he paints furiously on his hands and knees, the canvas on the floor.
Interior, Boston Globe, morning. Phone rings all over the place. Tasha cuts straight through the crowd to her office. Josh, her 20-something assistant, leaps up when he sees Tasha.
Miss Fitzpatrick?
Not now, Josh.
Interior, Tasha's office continuous. Tasha comes in and climbs on a chair to scan a high bookshelf. Josh follows her.
There must be a rational explanation to my not... Aha!
She pulls out a book and climbs down.
I have been calling you since last night.
Apologies, I had an opening and turned my phone off. I spent the whole morning at the library trying to find this blasted plate.
She has found her page. Lisa 40 steps in.
Tasha, the police called.
That was sure to be amusing, no?
About your dad.
Has something happened?
He was in a really bad car accident yesterday. He died.
I'm so sorry.
You poor thing!
Thank you. Thank you both for your concern. I'd like to be alone now, please, so that I might reflect.
Josh stops at the door.
let me know if you need anything.
Very well. Close the door, please.
Tasha looks out the window. Suddenly, she recalls her thought and returns to the book, stares at the platelet, pleased. Interior, Fitzpatrick's living room later. Rebecca Fitzpatrick keeps a very neat house, almost museum-like. Tasha keys into the front door and enters.
Mother! Mother!
She walks down a hallway lined with family photos, and she stops at one. Cutaway photo. Tasha, a child holding an award, stands between Gerald and Ed. All smile. Back to scene, Tasha leans in and looks closely at the photo. Interior, Tasha's childhood bedroom, day 1988. A goldfish lies on a napkin on the nightstand of Tasha's room in the Southerland School. It lacks the girly quality of most little girls' rooms. The walls are plastered with posters of great works of art. Young Tasha, 10, stands with her arms crossed behind her back. She watches the door expectantly. Ed sticks his head in.
I was sent for?
Young Tasha points at the dead goldfish.
What's this?
It's Pascal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but he's not moving. I like the way Pascal moves.
Yes, I know you do.
He hasn't moved in over an hour, in or out of the water.
I see.
No one else will speak to me about it. They all keep telling me they'd rather you do it. Miss Fuller says it's a hard nut to crack. What does that mean, a hard nut to crack?
Well, that means she thinks it's a hard something for you to hear.
Why? There must be an explanation why Pascal stopped moving.
Certainly. And a simple one. He's dead.
Dead? Like Wile E. Coyote?
No, like Yorick.
The jester?
Yes, the gesture. Pascal's gills, his stomach, his mind, they've all stopped working.
Well, let's fix them.
You can't fix this. They're permanently broken.
She stares at the fish. Her features are tight, as though piecing together a riddle.
A hard nut to crack.
No, not at all.
But you said it's a hard something to explain.
No, I said Miss Fuller and the others think it's a hard something for you to hear. That's very different.
He picks up the fish and holds it out toward her.
People think that because it was hard for them to hear. But you, Tasha, are different than all of us. Better. You think more clearly than we do. And upon thinking, you will recognize that this is as simple a fact as the sunrise or the sunset. It simply is.
What?
Death. Death is guaranteed to us all equally. I will stop working and never move someday. So will your parents. So will the other fish. And so will you. But not for a long time.
But why?
There is no why. And that's why Miss Fuller says it's a hard nut to crack.
She reaches into Ed's hand and takes the fish.
But what about my tank? What happens when my other fish stop moving?
Well, that's your choice. We can replace them, or we can leave an open spot in memory of them.
I want another Pascal.
You can get another fish, but Pascal, oh, he was one of a kind. Understand that, Tasha. When we stop moving, when we die, there is no coming back.
Look at you.
Interior, Fitzpatrick's living room, present. Tasha in the hallways before looks up from her father's picture. Rebecca stands at the end of the hall, mascara and streaks down her face.
Not a single tear. I don't even have you to share the rest of it with. He's gone and left me alone.
You're not alone, Mother.
What? What have I got? This house? A goddamn car? You're as cold as ice. That school took you from us years ago.
No one took anything. We have a relationship that is unique to anyone else in the
No,
world.
unique? Unique how? You're present in my life, but you're not here. You're here in my house, yes. You're here in Boston. But are you really here? Are your father and I ever in your thoughts? Maybe. They're in your memories? Not much. Oh, they're in your heart? No. They took that from you.
All they took was the possibility that I'd become the woman that you are right now, emptying your rage on the rest of the world as though it's our obligation to... An eloquent rebuttal.
Get out of my house.
If you're sad, tell me you're sad, but don't
Get
display...
out.
Calm down.
Get out of my house. You are not my daughter. You are not my daughter.
Exterior, Fitzpatrick's house, continuous. Tasha steps out and closes the door. Rebecca's muffled sobs inside. It thunders, the sky is dark with clouds. Tasha walks toward her car, notices a flower in the yard. She bends, sniffs it, strokes it. It begins to rain. Interior, Southerland School, classroom night. Ed sits at a table with 3 students, Sarah, Darshan, and Janine. It rains heavily outside.
So, what do you think of Hitler's psychology? What about that?
He was psychotic.
Do you think so?
He was indirectly responsible for the death of over 50 million people.
Due to psychosis or due to the history of his experiences?
What experiences?
Being an embittered former soldier, angry at government, betrayed into conceding to the Treaty of Versailles, drastic inflation, poverty. The world around him was falling apart, and he needed a scapegoat.
He was a murderer. Regardless of how validating his experiences are, it's infuriating.
Infuriating, Sarah? Tell me about that. What is infuriating?
It's like a knot in my stomach, and even when I relax the muscles, it stays there.
Do you think it's possible that the thought of the Holocaust, the injustice of it, tightens your physical core in a way that you cannot consciously control, so that in actuality the knot appears because the mind lingers?
Maybe.
A fury was a creature in Greek mythology that flew through Hades, thrashing the skin off the backs of the damned. Fury is violent and volatile.
Sarah stares at the wall, confusion in her eyes.
Interior, Tasha's living room, afternoon. The rain pours in thick sheets down the window panes. Tasha sips a cup of hot tea, stares flatly out the window. Her cell phone rings in the next room. Tasha follows the sound into the kitchen. The phone rings inside Tasha's purse. Tasha digs through but can't find it. She dumps its contents on the counter, including the cards Casey gave her. She finds the phone and answers.
Hello? Is she serious? Was she hysterical? Does Dr. Southerland know?
Classroom. Ed and Sarah as they were.
I agree with you. Hitler was a monster, a man of great fury. And his fury made him inferior. Had he understood the truth of the world, not been blinded by his fury, he would have seen Germany as it really was, and he'd have known that his actions were the wrong conclusions.
Tasha's kitchen. Tasha hangs up her cell and puts items back in her purse. She finds Casey's cards. There are 4 pieces of cardboard cut sloppily into squares. One is the inside of a UPS box. The others are pieces of cereal boxes. Each has been hand-painted with a brilliantly colorful picture. Classroom.
Yes, but Primo Levi, the men who saw their children shot to death, naked women clinging to one another in a gas shower, he's reduced them to animalism. It's...
Injustice. It is the ending place of fury, where it will lead you if you allow yourself to be governed by it.
I don't know. Can fury have only one ending place?
Tasha's kitchen. Tasha studies one of Casey's paintings. It is dark and passionate, with harsh splashes of forceful color. It is furious and beautiful. Classroom.
I guess it's not fury then.
She forces a smile.
I guess it's like you say, the injustice of what happened. My mind can't find a place for it. It confused me, and I mistook my confusion for anger.
Very good. Now, moving on, let's take a look at Mussolini.
Sorry to interrupt, Ed. There's a messenger says she has to deliver a package to you in person.
Very well. Send her in.
Dr. Ed Southerland, you've been served.
Tasha's living room. Tasha stares, fascinated at Casey's tiny paintings. Turning one over, she finds printed by hand, Casey Myers. Lots more like this. 435 Terra Lane, number 4C. Always home.
Exterior, Casey's apartment building day. Tasha rings buzzer 4C. After a moment, the door buzzes and she enters the garden. Casey leans on the stairway rail, craning his neck to see who's coming through the gate. Tasha rounds the corner and his face lights up.
I remember you, the blunt lady who wore the wrong dress. Tasha!
Do you always just buzz people in without asking who it is?
Well, I figure if anything, it's just somebody who forgot their keys, or some girl's boyfriend who wants to surprise her with flowers. I want my neighbors to buzz in a girl if she had flowers. Do you have flowers? That's too bad. I was prepared to be flattered. Come on in, the place is a mess.
Casey opens the door to his apartment and motions her into the living room.
Here, let me take your coat.
Casey takes Tasha's coat from her shoulders, hangs it in the closet. A pile of painted cardboard pieces clutters the couch. Casey rushes to it, shoves them on the floor.
Here, take a seat.
He wipes the fabric of the sofa.
No worries, pants all dry, won't get on your snazzy pants.
Tasha glances down at her pants.
I looked at your paintings. They were interesting.
She picks up a handful of the cards scattered on the sofa.
You hand paint every one?
Yeah. Beer?
It must take you hours.
Wine? Tea? Water? OJ?
No, thank you. I'm fine.
I figure a painter's gotta have a business card, you know? These are just doodles, though. You want to see the real stuff?
I'd love to. That's actually why I came.
Oh, yeah? I was hoping you'd come to see me.
I'm
just kidding. I'm just busting your chops. Coming to see the paintings, coming to see me. It's the same damn thing. Back here.
He leads Tasha down the hallway into the studio. The floor is cluttered. The walls are covered with paint, some still wet. Casey kicks some junk out of the way, and Tasha steps into the doorway.
Wait. There's paint all over the floor. Just don't want you to ruin your shoes. Here, put these on.
And he hands her 2 grocery store bags.
You know, like this, time at the top, you know?
I understand.
Look, I got you. Fire away. Oh, blunt and independent.
There's a work in progress on the easel at the center of the room. Tasha goes to it.
Finished stuff's over here.
He points her toward a pile of paintings against the wall. They're covered in a cloth, which he pulls back.
You throw paint at the walls?
Sometimes, you know, I get frustrated.
You get frustrated.
I don't know, lose my temper.
And throw paint at the walls. So you throw tantrums. Paint's an expensive thing to waste. What would Modigliani say?
Nothing. He'd just get wasted, kill some bugs, and use their guts for brown. How about you? You got an art fetish or what?
I guess you could say that I write.
What kind of writing?
Art criticism.
Really? Wait. You're that Tasha? Tasha Fitzpatrick? Boston Globe, Herald, New York Times? I don't know. I guess I pictured somebody a little older. Crustier.
A common defense among the criticized, of course. Excuse me if I bear your jab with cynicism.
Tasha flips through a stack of paintings.
I always found people who criticize art but don't make it a strange breed.
Perhaps you mistake your assumption for fact.
What, you paint?
Sure, but it's not my forte.
Really? Says who?
Says me. I recognize my talents. Painting is not one of them.
Then why do it?
It was always the one thing I couldn't do.
Well, if that's true, you're a hell of a lot better off than most people.
Tasha stops on a painting.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like that one too. No title yet, so if you have an idea, I'd love a suggestion.
The colors and the lines, they don't...
Tasha's point of view. The image swims slightly, but remains intact. The parts will not separate. Back to scene. Tasha turns to move and bumps into Casey. The awkwardness. She moves away.
It was a shame what you did to Ryan Roth. He was a damn talented artist.
It was drivel. No structure, no form.
Yeah, but it had heart. That's rare these days.
Heart did not Michelangelo make.
Oh, please. He laid on his back on a scaffold for 6 months painting the creation of man. You think he did that without feeling anything?
Certainly. He couldn't have painted with such precision where his faculties fogged.
Casey points at the painting she liked.
It's funny you like that one then, because I was in some thick fucking fog when I did that. Why do you think you like it so much?
I would have to spend some time with it before I could answer that.
Take it with you.
Excuse me?
Take the painting.
It's an original. I can't take it.
I'm not giving it to you. I'm letting you borrow it. I trust you'll take good care of you being a fan and all. Seriously, I'm interested in what you'll have to say. Take it.
Exterior street, moments later. Casey loads the painting in Tasha's trunk. Tasha unlocks the front door, opens it. Casey rushes to the front of the car and steps between her and the door.
Can I come over and see your painting sometime?
No.
No?
No.
Casey steps aside and motions her to sit. She does, and Casey closes the door for her. Tasha drives away. Casey looks after her, waves.
This should be interesting.
Interior, Tasha's home office later. Tasha carries Casey's painting into her office and leans it against the wall. She steps back and looks at it. Then at the framed picture she has hung on the wall. She removes the old picture and hangs Casey's painting. She sits down at her desk and stares at it. A book of Michelangelo's art on the bookshelf is nearby. Interior, Boston Cafe, afternoon. Debbie and Tasha sit at a table outdoors. Tasha drinks quietly while Debbie reads a printed page. Debbie finishes, sets the pages aside.
Brilliant, as always. I'll have Jason get it to the printers this afternoon. Ooh, we should make tomorrow's deadline. Poor Leroy.
He should know.
And fast as lightning. The show opened 2 days, and you've already unearthed every mystery already.
No offense. I know you like Duncan, but it's far from complex.
And that's why you're so fast, darling. What's your longest going article? The 3 days?
2.
Exterior, downtown Boston, street corner later. Tasha and Debbie walk.
So, about your next thing.
Yes, I have a...
Doug, you have something?
Yes.
Oh, well, we had hoped that you'd work on the Wesley Watson next. He has quite the craze in New York right now.
I've seen it. He's another mystic boasting the quick and painful demise of romanticism. Give it to Rebecca. She loves that red steel nonsense.
All right, well, tell me about what you've got.
His name's Casey Myers. He's new.
Where's he showing?
Nowhere that I know of.
Nowhere? Well, where has he shown?
I don't believe he's had an exhibition.
So, he's a nobody.
His work is unlike anything I've seen before.
They've reached the entrance to the T and they stop.
Tasha, you are our best writer. I want you on something important.
Quality is quality, regardless of the museum where it hangs.
Oh, Christ, Tasha, you and your idealism.
In 2 years, Debbie, how many times have I come to you with something?
Oh, hell, who knows? Once? No. Ugh. Very well, then. And turn it around fast, though, and I want to see this fellow's work. What's his name again?
Casey Myers.
Shoot me his website.
Debbie waves and goes down the stairs to the T. Interior, Atkins Law Office, afternoon. Mike Atkins, late 60s, wears the trademark lawyer combo, blue shirt, white collar, neat tie. He sits behind a huge cherry-stained desk. Ed sits across from him.
Has Tasha ever been arrested?
God, Mike, you've known Tasha for 20 years.
I have. But I also know how principled and bloody stubborn she is. A combination that can get people in trouble in the real world outside that school of yours.
Twice.
Arrested? Twice?
Protests both times. Environmental stuff. Late 90s. Just held for a few hours. Nothing on her record.
Yeah, maybe not. But they'll dig that up for sure. How old was she?
God, that was years ago. 13.
13? And under your care?
She was right. I wasn't going to stop her.
Still, Ed, they could say you brainwashed her.
She'll testify otherwise, without a doubt.
Yeah, for all the good that'll do you, it's her mental competency that's going to be on trial at the hearing. Look. The burden of proof is on the plaintiff, and they're going to have one goal, and that's to sling mud at you until the school closes down.
I'm used to that. I just don't want Tasha's integrity getting caught up in this.
Yeah, well, it's beyond that. It's beyond your control now. Look, put it this way. It'll put that theory of yours to the test.
Exterior Tasha's apartment night. Tasha's car pulls into the driveway. Casey sits against the building with several bags of groceries. He hits stop on his old Discman and removes his headphones from his ears. Tasha gets out of her car.
Jesus, finally, I thought writers worked from home.
How long have you been here?
Listened to 3 CDs all the way through.
It figures you gauge time by the length of a CD. Who listens to CDs anymore anyways?
People who can't afford iPods, people who don't have a computer to sync to.
Tasha opens the front door and enters the foyer. Casey follows her in, carrying his bags.
People who don't like to travel late.
Come in, I suppose.
Thanks.
Wait here.
She goes to the back of the house.
I got your address online. I swear I'm not stalking you.
It's ironic that you should be here. Creepy, but ironic.
That's my trademark. Creepy and ironic. Oh, and non-emotional like Michelangelo, that foggy, rational painter-sculptor guy.
Casey wanders into the kitchen. He flips on the light and unloads groceries on the counter.
I'm writing an article on your work for the paper. Should print sometime next week.
Have you eaten?
Tasha comes back into the room in jeans and a t-shirt.
No.
Oh, you clean up nice.
Casey holds up 2 blocks of cheese, brie, and cheddar.
Are you a brie kind of gal or cheddar? I figured the least I could do was make you dinner after getting me a review.
I just told you I got the article.
Maybe I'm telekinetic.
Maybe you're full of shit.
Casey holds a cracker with brie to Tasha's mouth.
Ah, cuss word. You stopped talking like a textbook.
Tasha steps back and takes the cracker from his hand.
You're very sure of yourself.
See, I knew you were a brie girl.
Interior, Tasha's bathroom later. Casey, done peeing, flushes. He zips up and walks away. He stops, goes back in, and puts down the toilet seat. He goes to the sink, stops, goes back and wipes the rim. He washes his hands, reaches for a towel to dry them on, but the ring's empty. He looks around, glances across the hall into Tasha's office. Casey's painting hangs on the wall. Casey steps in, flinging the water from his hands. On the floor, there's a stack of canvases, Tasha's paintings. Casey thumbs through them. Her paintings are passionless, straight-edged, well-crafted, but overly so. 100% technique. Kitchen. Tasha rinses some vegetables and reaches to dry her hand on the kitchen towel. The ring is empty.
Oh, Casey, I completely forgot.
She steps into the hallway, her hands dripping.
I've neglected the laundry of late, and there's no towel to dry your...
She stops in front of the office. Casey's on his knees looking at her paintings, and Casey sees her, leaps up, caught in the act of snooping. Tasha studies him. He shrugs.
You have no sense of boundaries, do you?
I'm sorry. I was just inexplicably, uninvoluntarily, I couldn't help myself. I was so flattered. Are you mad?
Anger is counterproductive.
Really?
Well, you're here, and your comfort with silence is rare and appreciated. You might as well look at them.
You're a pretty laid-back chick, huh? Or maybe laid-back's not the right word for it. Something. Nothing ever rattles you.
No loose parts to rattle.
Interior Tasha's dining room later. The dinner table is strewn with food and dirty, emptied plates.
Can I ask you a question?
If you require permission, perhaps not.
Why do you paint?
Why?
Yeah, what's the point?
To document.
Okay, but to document what?
The experience of living.
Whose experience?
The objective experience.
Is there such a thing?
Well, of course there is. You can argue quantum existence until Emerson moves to the city, but a chair is a chair. A sunset is a series of refracted light. One set of eyes may see it as orange rather than red due to color blindness, but it's red nonetheless. That is inarguable.
I don't want to talk about Emerson and refracted light. I want to talk about your painting.
To document the objective experience of living.
Do you think that your documentation is inspired?
That's a loaded question. No. No, I don't.
That's very courageous of you.
So?
So what?
You obviously have an agenda you felt some compulsion to know because you sensed I was misled.
I think if you tried to paint with your intention of documenting your experience of living, you'd abandon some of those straight lines.
I respect your opinion.
Yeah, but will you listen?
Casey, dinner has been a pleasure.
Oh, hey, look at the time. Gotta get going. Make it a policy to leave before I get kicked out. But first, come here, I got something for you.
Casey pulls the CD out of his Discman and goes into the living room.
You like music?
Of course.
Structured stuff, though, right?
My tastes...
Never mind, just take this.
He hands her the CD.
Next time you're in a place where it feels like something in the world needs documenting, put this on. Track number 3, turn it up real loud, and turn off all the lights.
How will I see the canvas?
Who said to paint?
What will I do?
Whatever comes. Just give the sound shape. Dance, paint, write, just do anything. And don't stop till the feeling ends.
Casey heads into the foyer.
What if it only moves me to stay still?
Don't try to think your way around this. Just do it.
If I assigned you homework, would you do it?
If you gave me homework, I would love it.
Casey leans in to kiss her. She does not move back. He moves in closer still. She stands perfectly still, her eyes wide open, looking at him. Startled by her stiffness, he kisses her quickly on the cheek, steps out the door, and then sticks his head back in.
Can't wait for that review.
Tasha, grinning, pushes the door closed.
Be gentle with me.
Interior courtroom, day. A small hearing. Ed sits at the defense table with Atkins. Rebecca sits at the plaintiff table with her attorney, Mr. Nolan. Tasha sits on Ed's side.
In 1984, Dr. Edward Southerland started a school. Dr. Southerland is a man whose history in psychology has been controversial, widely questioned, repeatedly criticized, and seen by most in the psychological community as downright laughable. The GPA, which now strictly monitors psychological ethics, made an error. They allowed Dr. Southerland's school to slip through the cracks. He escaped through a legal loophole and has been subjecting babies, toddlers, and adolescents to strange and detrimental practices for the 23 years since. His first student has now completed his educational program, and, after a lifetime of being told her emotions are errors in logic, has been robbed of her God-given ability to function as a normal individual. Today, her family steps forward to reveal the truth about the Southerland School and to beg this court to shut it down. Shut it down before another mother has her child taken away, before the school strips another child's life away.
Controversial? Yes. Criticized? Certainly. But what new theory has come to the forefront without being subjected to criticism? Copernicus argued that the Earth was not the center of the universe, and he was shouted down as a lunatic. Today it is a known fact. Dr. Southerland did indeed start a school in 1984, and his practices are indeed unusual. But like Copernicus before him, he knew the truth when he saw it, and he has fought for over 20 years to prove himself right. And, Your Honor, I am here to tell you that he has succeeded. But don't listen to me. Listen to his first student. Listen to what Tasha Fitzpatrick herself has to say, the student of these so-called unethical practices. And if her words aren't enough, look at her resume. Consider the fact that she has an IQ in the top 100th percentile of the entire human race. And consider what that might mean for the world if the Southerland School were allowed to keep its doors open.
Interior cafe, day. Blue skies over Boston. Casey sits at a curbside cafe reading a newspaper. His hands, his clothes, his hair, all covered in paint. Two young women at the table next to him eye him and giggle. Try to get the other to approach the cute, grungy artist boy. Casey is oblivious. He sips his coffee, takes a drag on his cigarette, turns the page. Cutaway newspaper. Headline: Controversial School on Trial. Back to scene. Casey reads the article.
Have a good day.
Oh, you too.
He returns to the newspaper. A block of text, mid-article. Well-known art reviewer Tasha Fitzpatrick is primary witness in the case.
No shit.
Back to newspaper. In italics at the end of the article, at City Courthouse beginning at noon on Tuesday. Back to scene. Casey perks up, glances at his watch. 2 o'clock. He gulps the last of his coffee like water, throws a bill on the table, and rushes out. Interior courtroom continuous. Rebecca sits on the stand. Nolan paces in front of her.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick, how did you first learn of the Southerland School?
Well, there was no school when I first heard of it. It was just an idea.
How did you hear about the idea?
Gerald, my husband was just... he and Ed, Dr. Sutherland, were colleagues.
Colleagues by what affiliation?
Gerald taught philosophy at Boston University, and Dr. Sutherland professed psychology.
How did they meet?
Dr. Sutherland published an article in the University Journal in, 2 years before Tasha was born. So, late 1982. Gerald read the article. They met shortly afterwards.
What compelled your husband to read the article? Did he have an interest in psychology?
Prior to this, no. But Dr. Sutherland's article had sent the school into an uproar. There was a lot of bad press for the university, hate mail, protests. Dr. Sutherland was dismissed. My husband was intrigued by the controversy.
What was his reaction to the article?
He was swept away. He couldn't stop thinking about it.
So he approached Dr. Southerland?
Yes. They began meeting. Not too frequently at first, then almost daily. They'd stay up all night debating.
How long did this go on?
For well over a year.
And then?
I got pregnant with Tasha.
Were you and your husband happy about the pregnancy?
I was ecstatic. I'd always dreamt of having a child. But Gerald, he was quiet at first.
At first?
About 6 months into the pregnancy, that changed.
What happened then?
Gerald told me that he and Ed had been talking about putting the theory into practice, about using Tasha as the first subject.
Were you excited by the idea?
Not at all. I hadn't read the articles, but from all the hoopla, I got the gist of what it preached. Removing a child from the home, ways of talking and not talking.
But you went along with it anyway, despite your objections?
No! I fought and fought for the first 6 months of my pregnancy. But, it's hard to describe. Arguing with the doctor of philosophy, where every argument has to be pure logic or it's nonsense, it gets tiring. I went along against my better judgment. I put my trust in Gerald.
Did your husband give you details about what would be required of you?
Some, but it changed every time we talked about it. Dr. Sutherland was making it up as he went along.
How? How did it change?
When we first met, I was to see Tasha every night for an hour. Then, 6 weeks in, they switched it to once a week. By the time Tasha reached 3 months, I was told I couldn't see her at all until after her first birthday.
Were you given a reason as to why?
It was always the same reason, that my presence was detrimental to Tasha's progress in the program.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick, do you remember the first time you saw Tasha at the end of that year?
Oh, yes. It was like yesterday.
What happened?
She had no idea who I was.
Thank you.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick, do you recall during the first 6 weeks of her life what Tasha's temperament was like?
Every mother does. Even mothers whose children are taken from them.
Was she colicky?
Not at all.
Did she cry much?
Hardly ever. She was a very calm baby.
You stated earlier that 6 weeks into Tasha's time at the school, your visiting rights were changed from nightly to weekly.
That's correct.
Do you recall the events that led to that change?
There wasn't any reason.
Did you not kidnap Tasha during your last nightly visit?
She was my daughter! It is not kidnapping for a mother to be with her daughter without some doctor looking over her shoulder.
Did you not crawl out of the bathroom window of the Southerland School with Tasha under the guise of going in to change her? Did you tell your husband or anyone where you were taking her? Mrs. Fitzpatrick?
No.
How long were you gone?
Just for a few hours.
And why did you return?
I had nowhere to go.
Do you remember the state that Tasha was in when you brought her back to the school that night?
She was hysterical. She wouldn't stop crying.
Exterior courthouse steps, later. Casey, still covered in paint, sits on the steps reading a book. A security guard nearby eyes him. Casey looks up and smiles at him, goes back to reading. He's wearing his headphones, bobbing his head, humming as he reads. The front doors of the courthouse open and people file out in small groups. Casey stands, slips his book into his back pocket. A few feet away, Ed and Tasha exit, walking together.
We still on for chess Saturday?
Why not? I see no reason why my being on trial should affect your thirst for blood.
Hey!
Casey pinches Tasha's side from behind. She and Ed both turn to face him.
Hello?
Casey, Tasha's friend. Soon hope to be more.
I'm writing an article about his work.
Ed Southerland.
Oh, the guy that runs the place on trial? King of the brainwashers.
That I am. Washing all the misguided coping mechanisms away.
Do you stand here? By his side? That you stand here? Don't you even know who I am to you?
Were your company a bit less assaulting, Mother, perhaps I'd stand elsewhere.
Holy shit, you talk to your mom like that?
Had you any context for the situation, you'd likely have something worthwhile to contribute. But alas, you have neither.
I need to be going. Casey?
Oh, send my sympathies to all your victims at the school.
Exterior courthouse parking lot, moments later. Tasha walks briskly toward her car. Casey is a step behind her, skipping every few steps to keep up with her speed.
You're not gonna get mad? Yell at me? Call me a rude prick?
I preserve my breath for more useful endeavors.
Oh, come on, I was just trying to get a rise out of you.
Tasha has reached her car. She turns, perfectly calm.
So I'm clear. You were rude to my mentor and friend for the sake of a game to amuse yourself?
Hey, I'm sorry. Come on.
Tasha gets in, closes the door.
Truth be told, I was only half kidding. I mean, it's sick what that guy does.
Tasha starts the engine.
Hey, what is this? The silent treatment? Aren't you a bit too rational for that?
Tasha can't help a smirk. She puts the car in gear, cracks her window.
I'll call you tomorrow to set up a time to look at your work.
She drives off. Casey watches her pull away.
Do you have my number?
Interior Southerland School hallway, night, 1989. It's late. The school is dark and quiet. Ed walks through the hallway, sees light coming from beneath one of the doors, and stops to listen outside. There is no sound. He knocks lightly.
Come in.
Ed enters. Tasha's room. Tasha, 10, lays in her bed drawing. The clock next to her bed reads 2 a.m.
Hello, Dr. Southerland.
Hey, having trouble sleeping?
Yes.
How come?
Just had this picture in my head. It was keeping me awake, so I thought I'd draw it.
Can I see it?
Sure.
Tasha shows her drawing. Represented, outer space. A girl sits on planet Earth, and two adults, male and female, sit on Saturn, a distance away.
Wow, Tasha. This is very good. I didn't know you could draw so well.
He points to the girl in the drawing.
Is this you?
Yes.
And these two? Who are these two?
That's my mom and dad.
Why did you pick Saturn?
I like the rings.
Why are they on another planet and not here on Earth?
I don't know. That's just the way I saw it in my head.
It's interesting the way you see it that way.
Why?
I told you about that man named Freud who lived about 80 years ago. He and people who think like him...
Psychodynamic psychologists.
That's right. Psychodynamic psychologists. They would say that you draw your parents that way because you feel isolated from them.
Tasha stares out the window.
Tasha, is that true? Are you isolated from them?
I don't think so.
Now you understand who those people are, right?
Yes. He put his penis in her vagina. Meiosis.
There's more to it than that.
What?
They made you.
Okay.
Well, that's a big deal.
Why?
Just like this picture. It means something to you because you made it, right?
No.
Really? Do you mind if I tear it in pieces
He makes to tear the page. Tasha jumps.
Ah, so it does mean something. Well, it took your parents a lot longer to make you than it took you to draw this picture. They're special people, Tasha. And you'll have a relationship with them that is unique to anyone else in the world.